Make him share. Good morning.
Well, I found that if you want to end where the wire is, sometimes it'll start working out. Yeah.
She probably gets I write the notes on my yellow and then I take the old ones off and get my pen. I had a request from somebody that brings stuff online. That's what I do. In fact, I can't carry paper because we haven't talked that long. She yells at me and I write notes.
Yeah. That is the style. That is the style. Oh, wow. Not the eyesight. Oh, it's not that. It's the Is that airbag going to kick on?
I hope so.
Is that why you're here? Well, I just got a renewal notice and I wanted to.
They're going to go to the county commissioners again for that big discount.
Well, last year I sent the whole thing. This year they just had some membership.
Yeah.
Membership though.
Yeah, this is September. I think they're gonna go to the commissioners next month. It's a year.
Okay. So I've already gotten my renewal notice.
Yeah, sure. I didn't know what was just before.
Daddy, what do they ask?
$35 is all for membership.
I think we should be paying $35.
Oh, yeah.
That's what it said.
Yeah, yeah.
Based on
Last year I paid 65.
$1.
You don't think so?
You must be seriously busy right about this time. It's horrible.
6 weeks of midnight.
It's still and it's taking money.
I think he's just looking to see what he's done. He took notes and everything.
I never said.
39
Take care of it.
It seemed to me.
468.
Did y'all see
Yeah.
all those people on the golf course?
It's 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock, time to convene the regular board meeting for September. The board of directors of Fort Clark. Do we have a roll call for quorum?
Robertson,
Here.
Sweet,
here,
Herman,
Here.
Castle,
Here?
Hagan.
Here.
We have a quorum. Would somebody like to do the invocation? Would you do it, Katie?
Lord, look down upon us this morning and continue to shower us with the many blessings that you have given us here at Fort Clark Springs. Thank you for the rains. Bless each and every person here and the families that they represent. Please bless our government and our troops who are facing additional challenges overseas. We ask all of this in Jesus' name.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. I should remember that. I guess our first item is announcements and correspondence.
I don't have any correspondence.
And reading and approval of the minutes of August 16th. We have a motion to approve.
I move them, the minutes from the last meeting be approved.
I second.
All in favor? Unanimous in favor?
We need to allow discussion.
Oh,
It's okay, I was just going to say a couple of,
okay, I guess we did, I forgot discussion. Did you want to make any comments, Mark?
no, I wanted you to notice that you didn't need to do that.
Oh. Daily operations report?
I stopped by this morning to, can everybody hear me? I stopped by this morning, there's we're in an interim operations setting right now, so what's going on is we have a job posting going up for an accountant for the fort. We're working on the job posting for a new director of operations. Other than that, we are trying to keep business going as usual. We have Oktoberfest scheduled for October 18th. Golf tournament, German food in the restaurant, and a band. We have a large corporate group coming on the weekend of the 25th to use the golf course and other facilities. They're from Austin. We have a district cross-country meet scheduled for October 22nd. We're working with the school district on. And we are working with the Chamber of Commerce for their first annual goat cook-off. We haven't got that finalized yet. And Seminole Days is currently going on in the fort, so if you see groups out around the fort doing some special things, you'll know what that's for.
Could we clear up the $6,000 stove? It was asked about this morning already once at the cafe.
A $6,000 stove?
That's one comment this morning was asked. We could stop those rumors now.
Sure. It was determined that the stove that we had at the restaurant was a little too wide and had pushed the deep fryer about this far out past the hood vent. So we were instructed to change that, so located a stove. The total cost of the stove was $3,005. We sold the old stove for $1,500 with a net cost of $1,500. This is within the budget that was set for the restaurant. We had set a $20,000 budget for the restaurant. We've spent about $14,000, so $6,000 in the budget. And it was either that or close the restaurant down, so we did that.
I just wanted to tell you, we didn't come up with that ourselves. The fire marshal insisted on it.
Yes.
And John Rozetsky had brought that up some time back, and I asked about that, and everybody told me that, oh no, it was all under the range hood, but evidently they're supposed to be within 6 inches of the
When-
edge of the range hood.
The last fire marshal was here, didn't say anything about it, and we were good to go. This particular fire marshal told us we weren't, so we made our choice.
The,
What about the remainder of that budget? Does it go on to this next year, or is it canceled?
I guess it's up to us.
no, it stops with the fiscal year.
Yeah, so we're done with that.
Committee and organization reports, architectural.
Yeah, we had 6 applications for permits. 2 were tabled for lack of information. They were later approved. And we sent out 3 letters reminding the applicants that their permits were about to expire. It's important that the applicant or representative be at the meeting, because if we have questions, we will table the permit.
The golf committee,
The golf committee met on last Wednesday, but we did not have a quorum. But we had the person there that was putting on the Happy Cervantes tournament, so we did talk with him and a helper. The golf committee did help put that tournament on last weekend. There were a total of 27 teams, of 2-man teams. We also, between the last meeting and this meeting, we had 2 work days. We had a total of 7 people show up on the first work day, with 2 people going out and spraying the cart path with weed killer the day before. But a total of 9 people on the first work day. And we had a big whopping 3 people on the second work day. So all these people that are griping and complaining about the golf course don't really care that much about it, except to be able to complain, I suppose. Of course, the tournament brought in golfers. They had motel rooms. They used the restaurant. And that was a very nice tournament, because also, once that tournament is over, any proceeds left over, it does go into the golf course. The man has asked the golf committee to maybe continue helping with that tournament, so that could be a tournament that we could push a little harder, especially to do things with the golf course also. The committee has several, we have the Oktoberfest tournament coming up. We're planning a Thanksgiving tournament. We have the end of the month tournament this month, the end of the month tournament in November, the Christmas tournament, the end of the month in December, January hangover tournament, so we've been pretty busy.
My house will get clobbered. Yeah, that's bigger than.
the preservation committee.
Okay, Garland is out of town, so he asked me to give the report. The committee mailed out requests for bids for repairs needed on the service club and Seminole Hall. 2 of the contractors will be looking at the projects this week, and as soon as we receive the bids from the contractors, we're gonna call a special meeting to award the contracts. We prioritized our future projects to number 1, windows on the fire station, 2, the adult center, 3, art studio roof and outer wall leaks, and 4, the commissary. Garland is researching who can do the repair on the rock wall that collapsed in the front near the riderless horse. And we'll bring this information before the committee when he has it. Then we'll give the same priority to that as to the fire station. Obviously, we don't want any more collapse. And Garland is also going to check with an individual about seeing if she can write grants for our historical buildings so we can fully repair them. And this person was present at our open budget meeting and is willing to write grants for the fort where permissible. That's where we stand in the preservation.
Community council.
Community council met last Saturday, and some of the things that we talked about. I had requested from the IRS an original copy, or a copy of our original 1023 application for a 501c3. It's been beyond 90 days, so I'm contacting the IRS on that again. We are going to continue our 60-40 split donation from Fort Clark Days, 60% going to the Preservation Committee, 40% to Community Council to support Fort Clark Days. We were going to present that check this morning, but then when I saw that it's on the agenda, a reading to establish the Restoration and Preservation Committee, I just decided we put it off another month on that. But just know we do have some funds there when those appraisals come in, if more money is needed immediately. Norma Rowland has decided to resign as chairperson of Fort Clark Days with the resignation of B.O.D. So we are going to be looking for a new person to be the overall chair for Fort Clark Days. There's been some discussion about whether we want to pay that person a small stipend to oversee everything. And that conversation is going to continue after I meet with the board this morning. We're going to talk about the memorandum of agreement. Is that correct? We're doing that in executive session. So that conversation will continue. We are going to repeat this year again the Halloween Ghostly Tour. We have 4 nights for that. We are limiting the people who can attend to 49 each night, so we're underneath that 50. The dates are October 17th and 18th, a Friday and Saturday night, and October 24th and 25th. We will be at Rendezvous Park. We've graciously been granted that without without having to pay insurance or rental on it. And there'll be something in the papers that comes up to tell you how to sign up for those nights. If you want to sign up today and be first on the list, be happy to do that. Adults are going to be $5. We're not changing the prices over last year, so I have to look up to see how much students will cost for that. Under the new business, we are actually going to, instead of meeting on the second Saturday in October, we're going to meet on the first Saturday, which is October 4th. And the reason for that is because the Rio Grande Electric annual meeting is in Fort Stockton. Fort Stockton is only about 3 hours away, so we may have a number of members who want to attend the Fort Stockton annual meeting of our Rio Grande Electric, RGEC, rather than coming to Community Council. We were able to announce that the e-newsletter is going to be sent out twice a month, once early in the month and then once again to announce the agenda. And I appreciate the board for making that happen. And then we had a guest speaker, Jerry Miller, talking about the dog shelter over in Bracketville. And then during the comment section, Judy Winchell talked about hoping to set up a feral cat program here on the fort, and all the implications of that, getting the feral cats spayed or neutered at a cheaper cost and rabies shots. And that was about it. Again, our next meeting will not be October 11th. Our next meeting will be October 4th, the first Saturday in October. Thank you.
Thank you. Recycling?
We sent out a load last Monday. The center stays busy. One of the highlights is that the price sheet came out for September and the prices have gone up rather markedly over what they have been over the summer, especially plastics. So we're good for that. We didn't get a full load out this last time, so we'll have another pickup probably within a few weeks.
Thank you. The RV?
Nice questions.
Oh.
Are we still accepting electronics, I've been asked?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
We're doing it until October 17th.
I have another question for all of these committees. I know that Community Council is open to anyone, I think.
Yes, ma'am. It's
And
open to everybody.
I believe Architectural Committee is open to everyone. Is golf open to everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
And Preservation, would that be open to anyone?
Yes.
Yes.
Just making sure that you get more people at your meetings.
Right, Y'all come, yeah.
I do have a question though from Community Council, because our bylaws do say that members in good standing are voting. And I understand that we fall under the the Texas law a little differently than Fort Clark Springs Association does. So when we have our elections in January, it will be members in good standing who are allowed to vote, but everybody who's on the fort is allowed to come to our meetings. You're automatically a member of community council when you're a member of the fort.
And you said November, what was the limit for the electronics?
October 17th,
October 17th is the limit for
they
bringing.
will be picking them up that day.
So if everybody's got electronic recyclables, like computer stuff primarily, right?
Right, no household appliances this year.
So any electronic
But
computer
radios?
devices,
We can still do radios?
Radios, televisions, computers, any telephone equipment, anything that you might use in your household that would be considered audiovisual, for sure.
I just want to make sure everybody heard, October 17th then, right?
Yes.
But they can keep bringing, when recycle's open, you can bring them continuously. Every Thursday and Saturday as we're open, you can bring that stuff over now. You don't have to wait till October 17th.
I have a question. Does that include like cords? Because like I have all these cords, I don't know what they go to anymore.
Bring them along, yes. I know, we all have a bunch of those.
Stop at my house on the way.
Modems,
Printers.
printers, mice, all that. Just please, if you bring printers, don't leave an ink or toner cartridge in there. Because if you do, we'll start face painting.
Uh-oh.
Any RV? Nothing from RV.
I don't think that started until,
Our next item was discussion approval of the 2014-15 budget.
I make a motion.
What?
Oh, to discuss and or approve the 2014-2015 budget.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I second that motion.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Wait. You didn't give me
Oh.
usually you just slow down, and everybody gets to say.
My question, I wanted to make sure that the members here knew we have a budget that is bare bones and we're not gonna make it if we stay there. And we have a budget that includes additional funds, and we'll talk about that part later, but I just wanna make sure we're not talking about huge raises in what's going on with this one we're approving, right?
Now I'll call the question if you like.
Yeah.
Well, you have to vote on opening the item up and then discuss it.
No, you just, you have a motion which you discuss and then you discuss it and then you approve it.
Any other discussion?
And I called the question, so we can have
All in favor?
Of approving?
Of approving?
Approving the budget. All opposed? Passes unanimously.
It's early, guys.
The discussion and approval of appointment of an interim director.
What happened to the levy?
Oh, levy. Discussion of the 2014-15 levy. I've got a sinus headache that's killing me and I can't see very good.
That's okay. Do you need aspirin or anything?
Nobody wants to suffer.
I have several pills already. and they're not working well.
Okay, I move for discussion of the 2014-2015 levy.
I second.
Discussion?
Well, based on what Myrna just mentioned about the bare bones budget, I think we are going to be forced to have a levy to pay up some of our bills. Because we still have some bills on paper, I guess you would say, from the last levy because we didn't get everybody paying what they were supposed to pay.
Since your microphone's not working, maybe you could borrow some.
Oh,
They
did you
can't
not
hear
hear
you.
me? I'm sorry.
Is that better?
Yes.
Hey, Yogi? No, I think we have to have a budget, a levy, because we have bills. The budget that we got just passed is bare bones. So we're gonna have expenses, because expenses keep going up. And we also have some, I guess, bills left over from previous levy that wasn't completely paid for. So we have to get that money in also, and then have a new levy for bills to be paid.
We have outstanding bills that we haven't paid?
No, we've got a large, if you include depreciation and bad debt, we have a large deficit. And the levy may be used for taxes, assessments, and other expenses, operations, and capital improvements, and for budget debt.
Well, Bill said we had bills from the last levy we hadn't got paid yet.
No, I think is that what you meant?
What I
Our
meant
our
was
bills
that-
are paid, guys.
Yeah,
We
that
have
the
the answer.
levy, the last levy that was imposed, what not everybody has paid for it,
Paid their part.
paid their part.
In fact, we billed 2,663 memberships. We collected for a total of $111,846. We collected $88,596 with a deficit still of $23,250. That still has either moved out for collections or it's been written off as bad debt. So some of these people, some of these members, we don't know, I guess we'd have to have collections tell you exactly why some of these things were paid, weren't paid, you know, as usual, but that's how it stands. So we didn't collect, we were short $23,000 of what we should have collected because people did not pay. So again, you members who paid are shouldering the burden for all of those who did not.
So we gotta do it again.
One reason was the letter said, pay at your convenience, or, yeah.
Forgot about that. When that levy was set out, the letter said pay at your convenience, did not have a pay date. So maybe 2 years later is convenient, but whatever happened, we didn't collect $23,000 of it. This letter won't say that.
You will have a big
Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll go on to reading the proposed amended election bylaws. Did we ever get those back from the lawyer?
You skipped
You
it.
skipped them.
Oh. Discussion and approval of appointment of interim director.
It's not really a discussion because one of us needs to explain what happened. All this Andy's good. It's the appointment.
Yes. I move that we appoint for, actually, rather than interim director, interim operations managers, 2 people. One of them is Monique Jensen, the other one, Rihanna Hay, to continue the daily operations of the fort,
Along with their other duties.
along with their other duties. Yes.
I hope they do that.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second for the appointment of the interim director, Rihanna Hay and Monique Jensen. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, do we have a vote? All in favor? Carries unanimously. Now, I guess, reading the proposed amended election bylaws.
Okay, that's fine.
Did we ever get this back from the lawyer? Or- So there's nothing to read then, right?
There is.
We absolutely have to have the committee in September, and this is September. The committee can be called either the old one or the new one. but we've already talked about this at several meetings, but this would be the first reading, and the only thing that might change would be anything that the lawyers considered not in keeping with the law or whatever. And that's why I wanted to bring this to a vote. It would be not a vote, it would be the first reading. It needs to be read twice. But that committee needs to be appointed now. I sent out a letter suggesting that since Sandy, Roby, and I are suspect because we might run, that B and Bill come up with two to three people apiece. And I don't know if you did that or not.
No, I did not. But are you talking of people to?
They would either be a nominating committee or a search and
Okay, I
certification
see what you're,
committee.
okay, that's what I was getting at, yes.
Okay, so we have to do this at this meeting.
Do you have any ideas? Go back to this. What you got? You are there, okay. You can discuss it if you like. This has been. Sure.
This has been on the agenda several times now. I worked with Dan Sullivan as the chair. Maybe you'd like to field questions, Dan?
I will. The bylaws charge the board of directors with appointing a nominating committee at its regular September meeting, which this is. And until the new bylaws are adopted by the board, it would seem to me you have to go by the existing ones that you have right now. And so that would require you to appoint a nominating committee at this meeting.
Which we can't do. We need a committee, but we can't call it the nominating committee because what that committee used to do was come up with names for the board of directors.
Correct.
Now, our new reading of this would be that the committee helps find people, but it doesn't cut it off at a certain number of names. It takes anyone who wants to be considered.
Basically, anybody that wants to run can just give their name to that committee.
Unless they're a felon or have been involved in moral turpitude. Those are the only things that would keep you from becoming a board member.
Well, then I guess,
We still need 5 people for the committee, and they actually do a lot of stuff as far as the ballots and.
Yeah, they are the ones that make sure that everything is legal as we go through this. A board member can work with them, but they cannot chair it, nor can they be a voting member of the committee.
I would suggest that that's what you need to do, is appoint a committee and call it whatever you like, search and certification, whatever, and move forward, the process takes place.
Would it be helpful, Myrna, to go ahead and read this so that the people that might want to be involved in this at least understand what it is that they're going to do?
Maybe you could get some volunteers right here now,
Maybe.
willing to serve on that committee. Hands up, folks.
Why don't we read what they're going to do first? Just.
Yeah.
You go ahead. I'm having a bit of the same problem that Rhoda's having.
Do you want me to read?
I have a fine, I don't have the headache, but I got that other stuff.
I'll volunteer to serve on the committee. One, anybody else? There you go, Debbie.
It'd be nice if we get some winter Texans on it.
Well, we have to do it in September, and there looks like the only 5 people we got.
Judy?
Ms. Winsel, Ms. Isaacs,
Dan?
Mr. Rozensky, and Ms. O'Bach, and Mr. Sullivan.
So what you're saying is the people who want to run
all
have
of
to
them.
apply to whatever paperwork we're gonna have.
Right, if they complete their paperwork
And return,
by
give it to those
Jan,
five.
I don't know, whatever deadline the committee sets.
I would move that Debbie Isaacs, with her seniority, be appointed as the chairman of that
And she just loves more chairmanship.
committee. Bring forth all that experience from the golf course. All in one.
Thank you, Dan.
I've just got a question. What if one of the people on the committee decide to run? Then you have to appoint somebody else, correct?
Right.
Yes.
Okay. And that's been, when is that deadline? October?
For filing?
Yeah.
No, you are no longer nominating, so the deadline would be what you set. Right, Dan?
Yeah, I thought there was a timeline that you had to have those in by.
There is, I don't have my copy.
Oh,
You wish to read that now?
But we don't know because of the new rules, what has been put in that.
it isn't a lot different. There were some wording changes and some things that they felt would make them less open to, what are they calling the
Well,
board?
at the time being, you're gonna run under the existing bylaws that could be changed prior to the mayor, next month.
Except for those bylaws that are in direct conflict with the law.
And that would be calling it the nominating committee.
Just to clarify this for anyone that's not sure, although our new revised election bylaws are not in effect, of course, because they have not been adopted, what Myrna is putting forth here is that we stay in compliance with Texas law. And so Texas law is in effect.
Everything has to be, everything.
Thank you, Dan, you explained that very nicely.
Everything has to go out in January, so you can have, do this through November.
Why don't we just read it to everybody?
Yeah, just read that.
Would you like me to read it?
That's what you were gonna do, right?
Yes, please. Okay. Okay, Fort Clark Springs Association, Inc., a resolution amending the bylaws of Fort Clark Springs Association, Inc., Texas nonprofit corporation. Be it resolved by the Board of Directors of Fort Clark Springs Association, Inc., that the bylaws are hereby amended as follows. That Article 4, Section 3 be deleted in its entirety and replaced with the following. 3, election and term of office. Members of the Board of Directors of the association shall be elected as provided herein to serve a term of 3 years. If the number of directors is increased, the initial term of office for the additional positions may be fewer than 3 years as determined by the Board of Directors. A director shall hold office for the term he/she is elected and until his/her successor is elected and qualified. Any director may be removed by a majority vote of the members at either an annual membership meeting or a special meeting held for such purpose, provided notice of such removal proposition be given to all members with the notice of such meeting. Directors shall be elected as follows. B, qualifications of candidates for the board director shall have been a Fort Clark Springs Association member for at least 1 year prior to date of annual membership meeting at which he/she would take office. 2, shall not be eligible to serve as a member of the board of directors if he/she holds a family recreation membership only. Shall be a minimum of 21 years of age. Shall be willing to serve if elected. Shall have waited 1 year after completing a second 3-year term before being appointed or re-elected to the board of directors. 6, shall not derive income from Fort Clark Springs Association or subsidiary, whether as a paid employee or one who provides goods or services to the association, or who may directly benefit financially by any action of the board of directors, or have any interest in any property or equipment which the association acquires. Directors are not prohibited the ownership of securities in publicly owned companies, except a substantial amount in those in a position to materially influence or affect the policies of the association. Full disclosure of any ownership in any such publicly owned company is required. 7, shall not serve as a voting member of any committee appointed by the board of directors while serving concurrently on the board of directors. 8, shall not be related to any employee by blood, consanguinity within the 3rd degree, or by marriage or cohabitation affinity within the 2nd degree. shall be willing to adhere to the Board of Directors' Code of Ethics as spelled out in these bylaws, and shall disclose any situation which violates, may violate, or could appear to violate the intent of this Code of Ethics. C, Search and Certification Committee. 1, at its regular September meeting, the Board of Directors shall appoint a Search and Certification Committee comprised of 5 members. The committee's purpose is to encourage association members to run for the board, to accept applications, to certify that those who wish to run have met the qualifications described therein. 2, qualifications of committee members. Shall be an association member at the time of appointment, shall be willing to serve. 3, duties of committee members. Search for and accept all applications from persons thought to be interested in and qualified for serving on the association board of directors. B, certify that each candidate meets the qualifications necessary to serve on the board. C, accept all such certified candidates to appear on the ballot and who meet the published deadline for completion of applications. D, establish reasonable deadlines for applications and submission of materials to be mailed with the ballot. E, submit the list of certified candidates' names to the Board of Directors at their regular January meeting. At this time, the order in which candidates will appear on the ballot will be determined by lot. E, election notification requirements. Each association member shall be notified each year on or before November 10th, either by letter or by a publication that is sent to the entire membership of any change to A, election procedures, B, definition of the eligibility of candidates for the board, voters. C, deadlines for submitting applications to run for the board, submission of materials for the ballot. F, election procedures. 1, all elections shall be determined by mailed ballot. 2, there shall be no proxy vote since all votes are by mail. 3, each membership in the association shall be entitled to a vote by mail. 4, annual election, tabulation and certification of the mailed votes shall be handled by an impartial auditing firm designated by the Board of Directors. A, the auditing firm's address shall be the return address for all ballots mailed. B, ballots returned as undeliverable shall be destroyed by the auditing firm. 5, the mailing committee shall be responsible for the security, preparation for, and mailing of ballots. This committee shall be comprised of the Association Board of Directors Secretary as chair. If this individual is running for re-election, an alternate board member shall serve. B, 2 representatives appointed by each candidate to carry out the preparation of the ballot mailings. 6, the Director of Operations shall prepare, certify the accuracy of, and furnish to the mailing committee by January 15th the following. A, membership list as of January 1st. B, mailing labels for each membership. This label shall be affixed to the back of each ballot. 7, after lots have been drawn for ballot placement on the January Board of Directors meeting, the Director of Operations shall by February 3rd have ballots, candidates' resumes, pros and cons for any proposals printed. This material, along with envelopes addressed to the auditor and mailing labels, shall be ready for the mailing committee. 8, prior to February 11th, the mailing committee shall prepare all materials described above for mailing. The committee shall also mail the certified list of eligible voters to the auditors. Voters returning ballots, that's number 9, voters returning ballots to the auditors. A, must sign each ballot returned. B, must return only 1 ballot per envelope. 10, the auditor will compare the mailing label attached to the ballot to the certified list of memberships to verify a legal ballot. 10, that should be 11, no additional ballot shall be given or sent to any member for any reason. 12, members may vote for other than those whose names appear on the ballot by writing in names of qualified individuals who have agreed to serve if elected. 13, the results as certified by the auditor shall be presented at the annual membership meeting by a representative of the auditing firm. At that time, the newly elected directors shall be sworn in by an officer of the association, and the outgoing directors shall step down. The new board of directors shall then choose and elect the officers of the association in compliance with these bylaws. 14, a plurality of the votes cast by those entitled to vote and voting shall constitute an election. The candidates receiving the most votes shall be elected. In case of a tie, choice shall be by lot. 14, a vacancy, if such should exist at the time of the annual election, for an unexpired term shall be filled by the first runner-up to the winners of the annual election. In the event there is more than 1 unexpired term to be filled, the longest unexpired term shall be awarded to the first runner-up. the next longest unexpired term to the second runner-up, and so forth. The end.
Okay, so,
Thank you, Sandy, and that's, reading is required by our bylaws, by the way. The, one thing that I would mention is I believe that when it comes back from the attorneys, there's a couple of things in there that are not gonna be allowed by law. One is, I believe, the 1-year membership requirement, and the other is I suspect that the age of 21 will be changed to 18. So, just to keep that in mind.
And we'll have to add that language about felony convictions.
Yes.
They will probably add it.
I want to change
Hopefully.
this, I want to change this to balance, are they gonna destroy them on us? That they get returned?
Roby,
We need it, don't they?
why do you want to amend the bylaws of the election of board members? It's been enforced for 50 years or more, and there's nothing wrong with it. Why do you want to alter?
well, because there's some of it needs to be brought up with current law. It needs to be so that it's
Legal.
under current law, legal. Some of the things have changed, like you have to be a good, possibly a good member, a member in good standing. They have to take that out, I think. But that's what they're gonna look at. Those are the only real changes that are gonna be made to it.
You mean the legislature passed this law?
Yes.
Yes.
When did they do that?
January 13th.
2012.
July 12. Okay. But do we have to have the whole works changed just because of that?
Most of it's not changed. Most of it's about the same as it was before.
Okay.
Now we're gonna go to,
You need to state that that's the first reading.
and that was the end of the first reading of the proposed amended election bylaws.
Can I ask a question, please?
Yes, ma'am.
When you said that they were to be destroyed by the people that are counting the votes, that isn't helping us any, because the next year we'll send the same things out, and that's costly. I would think they could just keep hold of them, send them back to us after the election is final, and then we take it
Can I
off our
respond?
books.
There are two things, I'm gonna let Dan answer one thing and I'm going to answer the other. The November 10th requirement that it be mailed out, or that they receive it, some notice of the election, could cover that. The other one is from Dan's committee, and I'll let him answer your question.
Regarding destroying the ballots?
Right.
There have been some people, and I'll say I'm not included, that have been concerns over the security of the election. And if there is a list compiled and made available to certain people of all those that never receive their mail, that don't receive it, there could be the appearance that someone could use that list to end up sending in multiple ballots by using those names and address, knowing that those people don't get them. And so I think you want an election that has absolutely no appearance of anything at all. There's really no need for the administration office to have that list. They can compile it themselves by their own records that they have on other correspondence and payment of dues and so on. They don't really need those ballots. And so that's why we're going that way.
So it still would be a cost to the board if, this is hypothetical, that we had 5,000 ballots to go out every year, but and 4,000 were sent back to us. We're gonna send them out year after year after year
No,
regardless.
that's
Well-
another issue, that the membership rolls have to be cleaned up, and that can be addressed.
This is one way you learn it.
That's very important, to bring that up, that that be done.
And law mandates we send them out even if we know they're gonna come back. We have to send them out.
Well, how do we stop it?
Well, should have been working on cleaning the membership up for the last 3 years, and we finally are a little bit. That's what we have to do, is get rid of all the people that aren't actually members. This one?
Actually, is it not in the, shall we say, the new laws that are out there, that you must send a mailing at least 2 to 3 times after it comes back to verify that it wasn't just a mistake in the post office? But if you don't keep track of those mailings by giving the administration the list of returned ballots, for example, that extends the period of time that we have to keep on sending mailings. That was the reason to have those things tabulated. They don't have to have addresses attached to them, simply names not responding 3 times, they come off the mailing list.
I don't think that's correct by state law.
This simply protects, as was pointed out to me, the integrity of the board and the integrity of the membership on this vote. And there is a record of who they sent them out. If they have a complete, the people that handle the auditing firm will have a membership list and a list of everybody they sent one to. We don't need to have a list of who didn't get it, who didn't receive it. As long as they can see we sent this list out to everybody.
Dan, was there some incident that happened in the past that led you to do this?
No.
It's an appearance, and also the fact is that many organizations, the election is not touched by the hands of the members or the board. Your mud district down here is one. It goes on to a third party that does the whole thing. Rio Grande Electric is another. There's companies that handle the whole election, and neither the members nor the board lay one finger on anything involving the election. And that's all, so they don't get a list of who doesn't receive ballots. And that's all under compliance with Texas law.
I disagree with that.
You should check on
I didn't.
Have you considered using another auditing firm?
Yeah.
One we've been using has been, and at one point in time, somebody has already known the results of an election, congratulating the person before the results were ready.
We are
Read.
soliciting bids from other firms and auditing companies.
Any other comments? I guess we'll move on to number 12, which we've kind of already done, discussion or approval of the appointment of the Search and Certification Committee for the 2015 election.
Okay, I move that we approve the committee of volunteers. Judy Winchell, Debbie Isaacs, Dan Sullivan, Carolyn Oblock, is that correct? John Rosetsky.
Do we have a second?
Oh, yes, I second.
Way to go.
Any discussion? All in favor? All voting in favor, unanimous. Number 13, reading and resolution reestablishing the Restoration and Preservation Committee.
Come on, kid, you're on a roll.
Okay. This is the second reading. Resolution 2014-01, Fort Clark Springs Association, Inc., a resolution to reestablish the Fort Clark Springs Association, Inc., Historical Building Restoration and Repair Committee. Be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Fort Clark Springs Association, Inc., FCSA, that said directors do hereby reestablish the Historic Building Restoration and Repair Committee as follows. The committee will consist of 8 members. 1, non-voting Board of Director member. 2, representatives of the Fort Clark Historical Society. 2, representatives of the Fort Clark Springs Community Council. 2, members in good standing at large, and 1 member of the Keeney County Historical Commission. Be it resolved that the term for a member on the committee be for 3 years. A member may choose to serve for 2 consecutive terms, but not to exceed 6 years for any one member. After 1 year absence, a member may be able to sit on the committee for another term. Be it further resolved that the purpose of this committee will be A, to continue the work of monitoring the condition of historic buildings in the Fort Clark Historical District owned by Fort Clark Springs Association, Inc., and B, to promote maintenance as required to preserve and protect said buildings. Funds necessary to perform this maintenance will continue to be provided from the Fort Clark Historical Building Preservation Fund established by the corporate resolution of the Fort Clark Springs Association, Inc., Board of Directors, April 30th, 2008. Such work as required may be performed through contract with professional contractor specialists by the FCSA Maintenance Department, or, if appropriate, through volunteer labor at no cost. Be it resolved that this resolution shall remain in full force and effect until an amendment or recession order has been passed by a majority vote of the Board of Directors of the FCSA. The above resolution shall become effective as of July 2014 and passed and approved by Board of Directors, Fort Clark Springs Association, Inc., acting in regular session on whatever day and year.
The only comment I still have about that is, who has control over writing the checks still, so that they can't run off amok with?
The accounting department has all the checks, and they are the ones that do it.
Yep.
It's in-house.
Along with
In-house.
admin.
Not the committee.
not the committee.
Okay.
Carla has all the checkbooks, or had all the checkbooks to that account.
I have a question, where it says that after a 1 year or 1 term absence, if you run 2, serve 2 years, 6 years, then you have to be off for 1 3-year term, and then it says that you can run again for another term. Does that preclude the fact that they want to run for 2 more terms? Or just 1 term?
To
You
take-
can be 6 years, but you have to have a break. You have to have, right now, there's people that's been on that committee from day one. And that was established in 2009, I think, 2008.
But here it says that they may be able to sit on the committee for another term.
A term is
Well,
3
just
years.
like, you can sit on this here for a 2-year term if you're reelected.
I understand
And then
that.
you have to come off. It's the same thing.
But on this committee though, can you run for 2 more terms after you have
After
the
you're
one?
off for a year, yes.
Okay, that's not very clear, but it says that.
It says after 1 year absence, a member may be able to sit on the committee for another term. The term is 3 years.
Yes, but what about another term after that?
That's up to the person who is sitting, if they want to continue.
But it doesn't say,
Yes, the first sentence defines the total number of consecutive terms. The second sentence defines that there's 1 year break before.
It was just to allow more people to come in. Somebody's been on there for 7 years, 6 years, or whatever, and it was never open enough. The original bylaws never allowed anybody else to come on.
That makes sense, but I think what B is asking is different, right?
yeah, it's just that it says term singular, not
There should be terms.
terms. And they could run 6 years, off 3, 6 years, off 3.
No,
No, off one.
off 1.
Oh, excuse me, off 1, but then they have the option of trying to serve for 6 more years if they want.
If they want.
Well, they have to serve for 3 and then have an option for the next 3. They don't get 6 years.
Exactly.
I think that's clear.
Yeah, it's only a 3-year term at a time.
Yes.
That is the
Not
second,
objecting, clarifying.
so that is the second reading. Shall we-
Then we go to discussion.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, do we have a vote to approve?
I will move that we approve the resolution after we approve the resolution 2014-01 after the second reading.
I'll second that motion. I'd like to point out that the two typos, actually. Chose needs to be choose, and Debbie, you said this should be
Terms.
should be terms, right, okay. And those are not changing anything, they're just clarifying.
It'll be corrected before it
All
gets
right,
recorded.
thank you.
So a motion has been made and seconded to approve the Restoration and Preservation Committee.
With corrections.
With corrections as mentioned. All in favor? Everybody voted unanimously to approve. Discussion to reestablish the Recreation Committee.
Oh,
full discussion. There have been some calls for the Recreation Committee to create new recreation programs, potlucks, different kinds of events, and we discussed it with David Box, the event coordinator, and he was thrilled with the idea that we would have a committee, recreation committee made up of members to assist him, come up with ideas, and to perhaps volunteer for other jobs during events. So, as I understand it, it was before my time, we had a recreation committee at one time, and they didn't receive much support from the board. So, you're gonna get support from the board. I'm all for it. Events coordinator's all for it, yeah, within reason, obviously. I'm not gonna give you unlimited funds or anything.
I'd like to be sure that we get some Winter Texans on the committee. We are using up this little group rapidly.
Right, and I think that's a good idea because a lot of our volunteer staff comes from Winter Texans, which is why we hold large events like the Los Morris Golf Tournament before they all leave. So.
Why don't we have David? Hello? Hello?
Why don't we have David in the next newsletter, put out a call for volunteers? And that way we would have we would have an answer on volunteers at the next board meeting.
I think they need, anybody that would like to volunteer for the recreation committee needs to make something known at the office and leave their name and phone number up there at the office, and we'll have those.
They could contact David directly.
But if he puts it in the e-letter which comes out at the beginning of next month, then by the
Right,
meeting,
as long
we'll
as by
have
the next
information.
meeting, we've got a list of people
Exactly.
that would like to be interested in forming a recreation committee. A 15-minute member discussion period. And we need to make sure we're about 5 minutes on our conversation. Mr. Baker?
Ready?
Yeah, 5 minutes.
Here. 1 minute. Can you hear me? I would like to ask the board that if they would hire a manager who is a manager, not somebody that wants to be a manager, not a non-manager, maybe we'd get something done and everything would run smooth, but it isn't gonna run very smooth unless we hire a manager. And we cannot stand another non-manager. We've had all we need for the last 20 years or more of non-managers, and that's where we are right today. When I moved here 20 years ago, we had lots of money, investment, drawing interest, surplus that we didn't need. Now I guess we haven't got anything we don't need. So we've gone down the hill for the 20 years and maybe before. We can't stand it another time. We just got to have a manager that can operate this thing. The other thing is, I'd like all the members pull their dictionary out and see what define means. It doesn't mean what we voted on, but you'll have to find out when you look at the a dictionary what it means. So, but I've had a lot of other things, but I don't think there's any reason to discuss them here. I think that's oh yeah, and I think you need to hire a manager before you levy some more money on us. But I think also, well, I know that we lose members every time we raise the dues. If we don't know why we're raising the dues, a lot of people are not going to pay. And we're losing money, according to this bill, every 3 months, we've lost a lot of money. In a year's time, we're going to lose a lot more money if we operate the way we've been operating for the last 2 or 3 or 4, 5, 6 years, or 10 years, or 20 years. So I wish you'd keep something in mind to hire a good manager so we could get something done. Thank you.
Thank you. Ken Spencer?
Ken Spencer, for those that don't know me, I've been a member here for over 20 years now. And the last meeting I attended was the annual meeting. And I'm very upset at the annual meeting because I've been in 7 corporate and public boards in my life, that business life, and you don't break your oath of office. And that's what happened at the annual meeting. We had 2 directors that refused to show up, so we didn't have a quorum, and everybody in the theater had to go home without having an annual meeting. Thank you.
Dan Laws?
Good morning. I'm here on behalf of the Kenny County Frontier Christmas Committee. To give you a little bit of history, I'm not sure if everybody knows the history of Kenny County Frontier Christmas, but Ron Seward, when he was manager here, Tim Ward, Henry Garcia, Robbie Westbrook, who was the superintendent of the school district, and myself, the 5 of us got together and said, let's start doing something in this committee in this community that's not controversial, but pulls the whole community together. And we all agreed that Christmas is something we can all agree on, so we chose Christmas as that activity. And for the last 3 years, we've had a number of activities, and so far the programs have been pretty successful. We're hoping this year that we'll have a better turnout than we've had in the past. But it's the trouble in this community, or one of the problems we have in this community, is there's just not enough money to go around. There's not enough leadership to go around, unfortunately. And so those 5 organizations came together, and we funded a lot of stuff that happened in the beginning, and had fundraisers and that sort of stuff. The fort supported, the city supported, the county supported. Well, now, of course, Ron Seward's gone. Jody took his place. And although Jody didn't participate all the time, she did assist. She did provide us support. Henry's not the city manager anymore. Tim's not the county judge anymore, and we have a new school superintendent. School superintendent's involved. So far, the fort's not involved and the city's not involved, and we want to get you guys in. So one of my requests is that you guys choose somebody on the staff or on the board that will come to the meetings and provide support. Someone who has the authority to make a decision about whether you can have a float in the parade, for example, or whether you can spend $200 on something that we split up, among the 5 groups. We've got 3 events.
When do you meet, please? When do you meet?
Right away.
Well, at night or in the daytime?
The meetings are during, I'm sorry, the meetings are during the day, usually on Monday and usually at 2 p.m. And my comment about Jody was not to disparage Jody, she just had her plate full. But she did support us. So I'd like to get somebody that can make those meetings and be a part of those meetings if you guys are willing to do so. Because we try to make the thing involve everybody. We try to make sure it involves the city, it involves the fort, and it involves the county, the total community. So one of the things that we need from you guys, and you guys will need to talk about, we like to start the parade here on the fort. We start it down at the pool. We line everybody up there, then we come up, go up Colony Row, turn around, come back down Fort Clark Road, out into Brackettville, then and cut over to Gove and down Spring Street to 5 Points, because that's where the big thing's going to be going on that night, is at 5 Point. We'll have a lot of vendors in. We've already been contacted by a number of vendors. We expect that everything will have a pretty full house. It was a little cold last year, you may remember, so some vendors kind of bailed on us, but still we had a pretty good success. And the idea behind having that arrangement at 5 Point is to support those businesses along Spring Street right there, so that they open their stores. People are there. A lot of people from out of town are there. They go in and shop in those small stores, and it boosts their business. Neil and Barbara, of course, at her restaurant, or their restaurant, they get a pretty good shot also, because people get hungry and they don't want necessarily the food from the vendors, so they go in the restaurant and have a sit-down meal. Anyway, we need you guys to support us. We need you guys to help
Would
us.
you give us the dates again?
I would give you the dates if I remembered them. Let's see, November 29th, I believe, is the first one, right? November 29th will be the downtown lighting. Rio Grande has worked together with everybody. All the businesses down there have lights on their buildings. We go down there with radio controlled boxes and plug their lights into our radio controlled boxes. And from in front of the co-op office, we turn the lights on and off by radio signal so that all the lights come on at the same time. They all go off at the same time, so we control them until after Christmas is over. The next one is December 4th?
6th.
6th, I'm sorry, December 6th, Saturday. That's going to be the light parade, and we've purposely determined that we want to have it at night, and we want to make it pretty festive. We want people to use a lot of lights and really light things up. I've told our people at Rio Grande, if you can't see it from outer space, then it's not good enough. You have to do more. And our guys have come through. Anyway, so that'll be on that night, December 6th. I'm sorry, I keep stumbling over my words. December 6th, and we'll have the vendors downtown. That goes on till, depending on the weather, it goes on till 10, 11 o'clock, however long the vendors want to stay. The vendors will set up shortly after noon. Is that right, Jan? Mm-hmm. Jan's on the committee, so she remembers all these things better than I do. And then the last one is Rio Grande's event. It happens at Rio Grande's yard. I don't know if any of you guys have ever been there, but it'll be on December 18th, I think. I'm not doing too bad. December 18th, and we'll have a sing-along there. We'll have singers coming in from San Antonio, my son, and some of the people that he works with at a church there in San Antonio, and they'll come in. And it's a fun time. We roast hot dogs for everybody that comes, and so there's hot dogs and hot chocolate and all that kind of stuff, and that's an expense that the cooperative bears. Each one of the entities, the county, the city, the fort, all of us throw in money to assist and keep this thing going, but we also have had fundraisers, and I'm happy to tell you we've got about $2,300 in the bank this year. We've been operating at a deficit, but we're actually on the good side of things right now. So we just encourage you guys to nominate somebody, name somebody to serve on that committee, and that they be faithful, especially here as we get into the latter weeks before these things start up, that they be faithful to attend. Because in these committee meetings, we're trying to develop resources, and we need somebody that has the authority that can say, okay, this is something that the board can do, or this is something the city can do. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any. Otherwise, I'll get out of your hair.
I interrupted you with all of mine.
No, that's good.
I think the board supports you. I mean, I do anyway, and we'll have to, I don't know that we can make a decision today on this, but by next month, we can come up with something.
Can you give us kind of a list of what kind of stuff you're looking for?
Yeah, actually,
Well,
I'll tell you a couple of things.
Because you know what you need to fill the voids with, and that kind of stuff.
Those things that you would like us to help you with.
Yeah, and I can give you a couple of those things, but some of them don't get decided until we get into those meetings, and I won't know what those are.
Right, I think the board needs to pick somebody to be a point deal for the board like he was asking for, and then they can confer that back and forth and bring it back to us. I think that would be.
Yeah, I understand.
We can do that in the next couple of days, I think, by email.
Yeah. Good deal.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Allison Watkinson?
I have three things. First of all, I'd like to commend the Historical Restoration and Repair Committee for including 2 members at large. So my commendations to that committee. One question, with the bare bones budget, I'm assuming that the changes are not happening between the Matt Mendelson Center and the Adult Center and the new gym. Is that a correct assumption?
It'll be open, is that what you're asking?
Yes. I'd like to make sure that the Matt Mendelson Center will be available for aerobics and line dancing when the Winter Texans return, without any questions.
We've all agreed on that.
Awesome, thank you. One more question. If changes to the election bylaws is approved by the board prior to November meeting, does this mean a mailing will be required to be sent out about those changes? And if changes are made after the November board meeting, what are the implications for notifying the membership? And then I'm done.
Right, that, we need to do it before November if we can, yeah.
We're gonna put pressure on
Should be done by
our attorney to
October.
get that.
Our current bylaws do require that any change in that or a number of things, the membership must be notified by the
That's
November
already there.
meeting. But I think November 30th, I don't have the date from it. That's a requirement of bylaws that must be fulfilled. And to be quite frank, without having those new bylaws back here by now, I don't think you're gonna get all this stuff implemented before the next election.
Is it by letter or by publication?
John Rosetsky?
Surprise! First off, a compliment to some people who may definitely think things went awry. A lot of good people have taken the positions up here trying to manage the unmanageable. We were set up with an antiquated system that made accounting impossible. A new accounting system is up and running. I believe is that not the case, and it is what is used by accounting firms across the board. So now the board can get a real-time, day-to-day accounting of where your profits and losses are. That's a positive move forward that has not existed. Amen.
Amen.
A lot of people, anyone who else takes that job or wants to be a director, they have my prayers for trying to take a job, because the first thing you do is inherit everyone else's mistakes. So don't go right out to stab them in the back because they're still trying to absorb that. That's what I'd like to try and. I will play devil's advocate for anybody. True, there were mistakes made in the past and a lot of positives happened. I got here 5 years ago. There was no Christmas parade. The first year, we had a beautiful snow on Christmas Eve. It was almost magical, and changes started happening. And this fort is coming back together to the grandeur that it should be. That involves giving some patience, because these new systems versus how it's been done 30 years ago ain't gonna happen. I looked at found Grandma's last file cabinet, her charter member dated 1988. Brought a tear to my eyes with all of the compliments and everything that was done since that time to here. And I can look at exactly how much my family's invested in this area. We all have a vested interest in it. We want our grandkids to come here and visit. Let's give them something better to look forward to and stop nagging each other over things that happened 15 years ago. Please, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Dan Sullivan?
Good morning. I would like to bring up something from the past, from 2006. There was a resolution passed back then that granted unprecedented authority and powers to the position of the Director of Operation. A few limitations were put in there, but basically what that board did was just shirk their duty that our declarations and bylaws call for, which charge the board with running and controlling the affairs of the association. It does allow them to delegate authority to others, but that doesn't mean just almost blanket authority, just one other person, which destroys the whole concept of the construction of this association, which makes it responsible, the administrative powers responsible to the membership. It takes that away. And at this time, I think we have an opportunity, great opportunity, because we have no individual in that position as Director of Operations. And so it takes the personality thing out of it. And I would ask the board to look at that resolution in 2006 and rescind it and return the control and authority to that position as it was prior to that resolution by our original documents. And so that's what I wanted to speak to, and I would ask you to give that some real serious thought and consideration. It's a good time to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. That's the end of our member discussion.
May I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
It concerns the recycling. I know they need a compactor, desperately. And we're giving away our money because we don't have one. And now Judy was saying that at the last shipment, they received like $400. Where does that money go? Back into the general fund?
Yeah, I guess it does.
I mean, I know they have to pay electricity and whatever other expenses they have. Can we start a fund with the money that comes back, less those expenses, toward one?
You're preaching to the choir here, but we have to have 4 other approvals on this. Yeah, I think they've needed a mailer since the front.
Start a little chart down there and say we're this far and this far and.
I agree.
It's something that could be looked at, yeah.
I agreed that she needed a mailer ever since they started that.
There are some times when we send out a load and don't make any money on it.
Well, I realize that.
And in fact, it costs us.
But if you had the cardboard.
No, I understand what you're saying, yes, I know, but the point being is that, yeah, we have to have maybe, if you will, a fund where the money is put into that is
Towards it.
a profit of whatever we get, if you will. The expenses, I presume at the moment that the fort pays electric, well, that's the only one we got is electric. And you know, and the rest of the stuff that's done down there is done by volunteers. So, you know, yeah, it's something we can look at to see if we can tighten up the ship, if you will. And
We have to spend
find
money.
out how in the past it was handled and see if we can make it better in the future. I agree.
It falls to what Mr. Baker said, we need a real manager. On our executive.
one. You can't afford one.
Well, we can't afford not to have one either, it looks like. On our executive session stuff, why are we discussing the, did you request that the agreement between community council and the fort be done in private?
No. I'd just like the board to discuss it so we can move
Right.
forward with Fort Clark case.
Do we need to discuss that in private?
It kind of needs a contract, if you will, it's a partnership, so it's got to be something that's got to be, make sure we both have in writing what we're doing, I would say.
We can review it and get back.
Yeah, we can bring it out when we come back, but I think we need to discuss it so we know what we're doing.
Then the job description for the DM we have to do in private, we can't do in public?
Oh,
We
that was,
have-
the personnel thing was more salary issue.
Right, that needs
There's
to
no
be.
names involved, it's just,
That's not,
And we have a job description that we need to discuss.
the director of operations job wasn't even involved in all this, that was something else. Do you want to do that now? Are we going to extend this till tomorrow, I think? Just go until 6 o'clock?
No.
I think it can be done quickly in executive session. But if you want to just read what we're in.
Well, no, the job, I mean, we're gonna agree on a job description for the DO, right?
But it's just started, we haven't, I mean, you can read the list if you want, that's not a problem. We've come up with a list so far, and maybe there's one of, I don't know, but it should be right here.
I think when it's finalized, it's appropriate to read it.
Right.
Okay, well, we were looking, I'll read this, what we've come up with so far, the job posting for the Fort Clark Springs Director of Operations.
This hasn't been approved.
Hasn't been approved, but it's what we're looking at.
I don't understand what you're saying.
Well, I don't understand why we're discussing it in private instead of public. I mean, it's a,
Because we probably don't want to keep these people there forever. But you can read this, there's nothing wrong with reading that list. It's just
Right, what we've come up so far is the previous financial, business, and/or administrative experience, combination of education and experience necessary to lead a multifaceted organization, proven ability to get along with board members, membership, subordinates, and the public, planning, budgeting, and organizational skills, oral and written communication skills, and grant writing a plus. What do we have for a time frame on putting out a job announcement?
Well, that's what we need to do is finalize this.
Finalize it, we discuss it.
Why can't it be done right here? I don't understand why that's
What would you like to do, Robbie, please?
whatever we're gonna discuss, I don't see that it's a top
I
secret.
understand, but what do you want to do now?
Discuss that here before we go to executive session.
Go ahead. You
Discuss away.
we don't have any problem with it, we
Well,
just,
what are we gonna do to, when are we gonna put a job announcement out?
Well,
Where are
first
we
of all,
gonna
we
do it?
have to decide where we're gonna, we
Where?
need a list of where we're gonna put that job announcement. We've got some ideas, there's some internet sites like monster.com and, was
I
that
wouldn't put it on lunch.
what was that other one?
That one's getting bad. The problem with what you're asking is that it's so nebulous. But we can discuss, if you want, discuss away. But you have to start the discussion, you're president. You can't ask us to do it for you. I'm sorry.
When are we gonna post a job application? The 15th of next month? Let's have a deadline. When do we have to?
What's the date? I think the
When
first,
you suggest.
I think by the first is fine.
By
First of
October 1st?
October, sure.
It makes sense, yes.
And then what type of media do we wanna, how much is it gonna cost to put it online? or
That's
somewhere
what
like
we
that?
have to, that's what we are still looking into. We don't have those figures yet because we haven't decided. We've got a couple of internet sites, newspapers,
What newspapers do we think would be best at, like the San Antonio?
well, I think the Express News, Del Rio, the Herald, both copies, or both editions, and Kenny County Post. Possibly, I think we should put it in, if, I don't even know if Uvalde and Eagle Pass have papers, but I think
Uvalde
we should.
does, so does Eagle Pass.
They should go there, and I mean, I can't even get the San Antonio paper here anymore. Oh, do they have a paper
Yes,
deliverer?
yes, we do.
Oh, yay.
What kind of budget do we have here for what kind of budget do we want to surmise?
You're asking questions
we don't have
that-
answers for.
That you need to be as much of an answer as anything. You are part of us, please.
We have not got, we have just put this together as of 2 days ago, 3 days ago, 2 days ago, Wednesday. Just
We're
put
putting
this.
it together right now, we're asking for ideas and opinions, that's what we're doing right now.
Okay, and that's what we're
I'd say,
saying.
what, $3,000, is that too much, not enough?
I have, no, you know what, I can't answer that because it's been years since I've posted anything in the newspaper or online. I don't actually know.
And I don't think that Monique was here when it was done the last time, right? So, we don't have experience right now. Monique's doing some research herself as the human resources person. She's been involved in enlisting, but not this high. The thing is that instead of asking these questions, you need to start making statements. What do you want?
Whatever the board agrees upon, I'm not the dictator here, I mean, I'd say 3Gs is a lot of money to start with. I don't know how far that'll get us, but what kind of budget do we want to look at?
And where is it coming from? Where are we pulling it from? But
5,000, 3,000, what, I mean, how much seems absorbent? At what point in time do you?
do we have something that, Monique, do we have something that we've used?
Not that I'm aware. I
Not
mean,
this high, I don't
Not,
think.
not for direct
We don't really
operations.
have,
I'd say, I don't know,
Many companies would appoint a search committee to take care of all that and go out and find it. It doesn't mean
And
that
that's gonna-
folks went beyond that.
This is something we need to do in the next few days, and I think that between our office staff, we can call the papers and check with the websites to see how much they charge. Katie, do you have any idea what it?
I'm not in advertising.
I
Just didn't know
also
if you
forgot
knew.
to mention that, as you well know, our declarations and bylaws say that position serves at the pleasure of the board, which I would think should preclude giving contracts out unless there are very options to cancel those contracts or
It was put in the Lubbock paper, the San Angelo paper, the Midland paper, the Odessa paper, San Antonio and Austin is where, and I think maybe Houston. I don't know if it ever got to Houston or not before. And then they put it on Craigslist, and I think there was one or two other places that they also put it like a job search. But most of it was pretty minimum as far as the cost went. But it did go out to those towns the last time. To the newspapers and to the Craigslist and those kind. So many of the other people now use Craigslist on just about everything. And then I don't think it ever got into the Houston paper.
I guess you,
I've also suggested that it be sent out to
Indeed.
university, colleges and universities, because many of those people have already served as managers or administrators, and then come back to get a master's degree. So if it were put there, that would be a good place to find someone with experience and education.
And I think AARP is another good place to put it, because we may get a retired manager who wants less stress.
And I don't know, but I know that if, you know, when you go out to places like Houston and Austin and Midland, you're getting people who are used to a much higher income, and to come here might not be as easy a draw for whatever we can afford to pay a manager. I know there are a lot of people out of work, but drawing from our own economy, from like Eagle Pass and B.O.D or Del Rio or wherever, you know, we might get someone that actually has the qualifications and is more in fitting with what budget we have for that person, rather than drawing from the big cities where they're used to larger salaries.
You know, military, you got a base here, how many people are, upper echelon people are retired military,
Absolutely.
why not?
And then they would be
Also see
displaced
us
so
as a
far from
search
where they
committee.
already reside, that might be another consideration.
do you have a time frame you think it would take you to find some of this stuff out?
I can do it this week,
So
by
the
the end
coming
of,
week,
by Friday.
so maybe by next Saturday, we could have a list of something, or Friday sometime?
We could probably start even, once we get some idea, yeah. I mean, I don't have
I
an
would-
objection to your $3,000, I don't think it's gonna go that much, but, it gives us something to work under. I think it should be in hundreds and rather thousands of dollars.
Yeah, me
So,
too.
I think that should more than cover it. If it doesn't, we can come back
If we
have
spend,
to.
if we spend a lot trying to get somebody, we won't spend a lot to keep somebody.
I would think, like Katie said, beating the bushes in Del Rio with the maquiladoras, the people that are running stuff across the river, living on this side and working over there, they've got a lot of managerial skills. I don't know at what rate they're getting paid, but there's a lot of people like that coming at Eagle Pass and Del Rio both, because of working on both sides of the border, the factories over there. And they might be interested in staying on this side. But I don't know what mediums, other than the Del Rio paper, the Uvalde
Well,
paper.
I think we should hit all the
There's-
local, and I do think we should hit San Antonio, because they know of the fort in San Antonio, and there may be people just dying to get here.
Plus the
So-
paper goes to the whole area.
Yeah.
So
And
it's
the
not.
No.
Texas Municipal League,
It's all the local cities.
I don't know, because we're not a municipality, if we can advertise on that. But that's the type of people that they, it's a
Advertise on what?
municipal, Texas Municipal League.
That's a possibility.
There's always administrative people there.
And
You
I
might
think,
also see what resources the Chamber of Commerce has to get it out to other chambers.
That would be a good deal there, yeah, the Chamber of Commerce and Del Rio and Brackett both.
Uvalde, do they have a chamber?
Also, I think the Air
Eagle
Force
Pass.
has newsletters that they send out, and that's what we used to use a lot of times.
Well,
They
how
send-
about the six of us make a list up and then turn it into Monique Monday and see where we want to start putting this thing.
I've given her
Instead
all
of
my ideas.
just throwing it out in the air.
She's taking
Just
notes.
write it down and give it to her, and then we can go from there. We don't have to figure that out right now here.
Okay, well, we have,
And then the agreement with the community council, do we need to,
well, I think the conversation will go faster if Because I didn't ask the questions, I just,
I don't think people are interested in sitting through that, but it's up to you. And they're getting up to leave right now.
we can bring it back, the results of it, and
I don't know that it needs to go into executive session, I can just come up there and discuss it with you all.
Would you like to?
Sure. Unless you guys wanna get up and move around.
Right for a minute? Yeah, I want a break.
Some of us can't sit through too long.
you're really violating the agenda.
Yes, we are.
It's 10:30, we're gonna have a break for a few minutes and then reconvene.
Why don't we just go into have a break and go into executive session?